Good afternoon. On behalf of the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, welcome to Nexus of Communication, a webinar for new Accreditation Liaison Officers. My name is Diana Bonner, and I am the Assistant Director for Institutional Support Services here at the Commission. I want to take a moment and thank my colleague, Ms. Victoria Clark, for serving as our host and providing technical support for today's webinar. We want to remind you that this presentation remains the property of the Commission, and if you have specific questions related to your institution, you should reach out to your Commission Vice President Liaison. This presentation is being recorded, and we will share the recording with all of you and with those who registered but were unable to attend. We have reserved time for questions and answers at the end of the presentation. A few of you sent in questions ahead of time. We thank you. If you have any new or additional questions that come to mind as we move through this afternoon's program, we are monitoring the chat function and will collect and answer as many questions as we can at the end. For those of you using a web browser, you can submit questions through the chat function, which appears at the bottom of your screen. And for those on a mobile device, you can submit questions through the chat function by clicking the three dots. We will do our best to get to as many of your questions as we can. In addition to Brian and myself, we will be hearing from Dr. Jonathan Perry, Commissioner and President of Manor College, Dr. Heather Perfetti, President of the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, and Dr. Christy Faison, Senior Vice President for Accreditation Relations. We will also hear from your colleagues, Mr. Brian Fernandez, who is the Vice President for Enrollment Management at Dominican College and also an Accreditation Liaison Officer, Dr. Linda Murray Jackson, Assistant Vice President at Delaware State University, and Mr. Javier Zavala, Director for Institutional Research at the University of Puerto Rico, and Director for Planning, Institutional Research, and Accreditation for the Bayamón campus. A little information about me. I am beginning my 10th year on staff here at the Commission and my 27th year working in higher education. A significant portion of my position is to provide support for member institutions by working directly with you. Brian, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, thanks, Diana. So I'm Brian Kirshner, Senior Director of Communications with the Commission. I've been here for about 2.5 years now, and prior to that, I was almost 12 years Director of Communications at a small university here in Philadelphia called University of the Sciences. I'll talk a little bit more about my role later in the program. And then of course, we're happy to answer questions about what we do and of course, things that we can do to help you. So, Diana?
So today, we intend to address the following. Obviously, we're going to welcome you and have some introductions. We're going to give an overview of the Middle States Commission on Higher Education. We will talk about your relationship with your Vice President Liaison. We will give you information about our brand, the ALO's role and responsibilities, which is really the heart of the program today, an overview of the accreditation cycle processes, the Middle States Institutional Portal, communication expectations between the Commission and you and your institutions. And then finally, with a set of resources for your information, and then time for questions and answers. We have introduced ourselves, and now let's find out a bit about you. I'm sorry, I skipped a slide.
No worries.
We hope that at the end of today's program, we will have helped you gain a better understanding of your role as the Accreditation Liaison Officer and how it is that the Commission expects to work with you as an ALO representing your institution. And finally, we want to provide you with resources and strategies that will assist you in your new role. Now we have introduced ourselves to you. Let's find out a bit about who you are and how long you've been in the role. So I'm going to ask Victoria to launch the poll, and you'll answer accordingly. This is not the poll that I have.
Okay, well, that's all right. We'll
get back to it.
We'll get back to the other one, but I think this tells us their participation.
Yeah, this is great. So, Brian, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about these events.
Well, I mean, it looks like out of the, we have a number of people who have attended some of our events and those who will be attending future ones, I hope. Yeah, I think that it's important as you're, oh, and here comes the first poll. So we'll get to that. People let people answer that one now too.
Excellent. So yeah, they read the directions.
But I think having seen both polls now, yes, that for those who are here less than a year, it's important that they attend our events. The town halls and things like that. So,
absolutely, and I'm delighted that those of you who have joined us recently, we hope to give you a lot of information, a lot of food for thought, and some strategies that will help you as you settle into your role. Okay, Vicki, you can stop the poll now. Thank you. And now we're going to hear from Dr. Jonathan Perry, the president of Manor College and Middle States Commissioner, who will provide some introductory remarks.
Welcome to the Middle States Commission on Higher Education's webinar for new Accreditation Liaison Officers. We hope you enjoy and learn from today's program and that you'll ask any questions when the moments arise now and in the future. I'm Dr. Jonathan Perry, MSCHE Commissioner and President of Manor College in Jenkintown, Pennsylvania. Before I jump into substance, please let me share just a little background, because when you get on these Zooms and webinars, apart from having our pets walking around behind us, it's important to get to know the person a little bit. Manor College is a small, private institution in the suburbs of Philadelphia. We're proud of being a mission-based institution. We're proud of being an extremely diverse institution. And like you, we're proud of so many other attributes of our campus leaders and physical campus, such as our Manor faculty, who are regional leaders in the use of open educational resources. At Manor, I've been blessed to serve as president for the last 5 years. I keep an open door policy, and with the pandemic, I keep an open Zoom policy. Once every few weeks, we get together for an open invitational Zoom just to have informal conversations, because we're not passing each other in the hallways as much as we were before the pandemic. My career background in a nutshell is that I basically started as a county prosecutor with the Philadelphia Suburban District Attorney's Office, taught at Penn State, and some other colleges as an adjunct, and I moved up through a private, nonprofit university to become the vice president and general counsel, where I was also advising the president on strategy, advancement, and various other matters. She was a wonderful mentor to me and said I should get the PhD on top of the JD, which I completed around the time I became the president of Manor. Because of her mentorship of me, I am now rooted with the conviction of a leadership style that builds up others. We may lose them sometimes to new workplaces, but we all remain a part of the college family. And the greater cause of gifting knowledge matched with human compassion is truly all of our purposes. Congratulations on becoming your institution's Accreditation Liaison Officer. What you should probably know most of all is that it's a position of honor, whether subtle or overt. Of every single person on your campus, the executive leadership of your institution selected you. That means they have a confidence in you, that you will be honest, transparent, authentic, and extremely thorough. You are the person who is now giving voice from our membership, i.e., your institution, to the commission and the staff. Having an engaged ALO who works to understand and appreciate commission expectations and who shares their knowledge across institutions for the benefit of colleagues and students is crucial. The Middle States Commission on Higher Education is an accrediting body that prides itself on rigor and colleagueship. It is not an us and them situation. It's we. The commission is made up of people, just like you and me, who may have been on a commission committee, acted as a peer evaluator, or who served as an ALO. So it's not them who hold us to our standards for accreditation and requirements of affiliation. It is us who hold us to those high standards. The federal government also governs with a layer of oversight, and they appreciate our approach. Indeed, they rely upon it. We rely upon our approach. This means we rely upon you for your communication with the Commission and that they be clear, concise, and precise. You know, so often the Commission receives telephone books of information from member institutions. Sometimes that's warranted, but definitely not always. When I was a young prosecutor, I had a seasoned deputy give me the trial advice of say what you have to say. That meant not to say more than I had to, and not to say less. It means to be precise and accurate, to paint the picture and hand it in. The ALO serves as the primary contact with the Commission staff and will be copied on all official communications. As such, the ALO should be cognizant of all activities related to accreditation, review, and monitoring. This includes a number of responsibilities that you'll find in the Accreditation Liaison Officer Roles and Responsibilities Guidelines. Let me share that again. It's called the Accreditation Liaison Officer Roles and Responsibilities Guidelines, which you should already be familiar with. Such responsibilities include, for example, ensuring that the president and institutional community are appropriately informed of Commission expectations and updates, maintaining excellent contact with your MSCHE Vice President Liaison, maintaining a working knowledge of Commission standards for accreditation, requirements of affiliation, policies, procedures, and guidelines, and ensuring consistency between data submitted to the Commission and external agencies. Again, please see the Accreditation Liaison Officer Roles and Responsibility Guidelines for a more complete picture. Thank you for sharing a few minutes for these introductory remarks. know that you are appreciated. Sometimes the work done to sustain effectiveness and transparency at the highest levels of higher education can be a lonely job. Like earning a master's degree or doctoral degree, you become the expert on your capstone project or dissertation. Here, you will be among the masters of information about your institution, and we at the Commission recognize all the work that's required for that to happen. We and your institutions are extremely grateful to you now and as you fulfill your roles as ALOs. Enjoy the program today, take lots of notes, organize them, maybe start a binder to keep things in good order. Be sure to ask your questions today and to ask any future questions of your MSCHE Vice President.
So I'd like to thank Dr. Perry for those insightful words. And now I would like to introduce our president, Dr. Heather Perfetti, for some additional welcome remarks.
Great, thank you, Brian, and thank you, Diana, and also thank you to Vicki out there managing the technology on behalf of the Commission today. So as president of the Middle States Commission on Higher Education, I want to express my excitement at being here with you, our new or relatively new Accreditation Liaison Officers. And first, what a great opportunity for me to follow Dr. Jonathan Perry, one of our commissioners and one of our presidents. I met Jonathan several years ago through his service to the Commission as a peer evaluator, where he seemingly stayed involved in some of our more complex evaluations. And I echo his many sentiments about you and the opportunities that sit before you as the Accreditation Liaison Officer for your institutions. I know you're going to hear from others today about opportunities to expand beyond your role as ALO and become a peer evaluator with us as well. As you know, peer review sits at the core of what we do, and we always need volunteers who carry out the hard work of accreditation. Like Jonathan, I too want to congratulate you on leading your institution in this position that our commission holds in such high regard. Whether you volunteered or you were voluntold that you were going to be your institution's Accreditation Liaison Officer, we hope that you know this should feel like a celebratory moment for you, because it is exactly that for us. Now, I promise to only take a few minutes today so that you can get to the exceptional programming that has been planned for you. But know that the brevity of my comments do not reflect the enormity of the Commission's appreciation. You will often hear me speak about the mountains moved by all of you, our ALOs. Today, we not only offer advice and counsel, but we want to recognize you and we want to thank you again. I also want to acknowledge our two presenters, Ms. Bonner and Mr. Kirshner. While they will deliver a great program today, you should know that their engagement with you does not end here. They are always available to help guide you as you navigate your journey as an ALO. If you remember nothing else about what gets said today, I want you to remember this. We want you to contact us when you need assistance. I want to say that again. We want you to contact us when you need assistance. Do not let anyone tell you that outreaching to us should be avoided or that we are not a partner for you. As president, I want to reiterate that we are here to support you and your institutions and to make sure that you, as our ALOs, are empowered with information that you need to fulfill your role and responsibilities. Diana and Brian are part of an amazing staff here at the Commission, and I know that you will come to appreciate them much like I do. You're also going to hear from Dr. Christy Faison, Senior Vice President for Accreditation Relations, and I know she will get you energized about your role as an ALO. Dr. Perry referred to an often lonely journey, and I can assure you that we will make it less so in terms of your role as an ALO. You have been introduced to several amazing ALOs that you are going to hear from as part of this event: Brian, Linda, and Javier. Their spending time with you during this event speaks volumes about the work we do together. I want to reiterate another point of Dr. Perry. It is not us versus them, it is we. The ALOs that you will meet as part of this program believe in and support our collaborative work. They will become great colleagues for you to meet and know. And when we finally get back to an annual conference or other face-to-face events, you'll get to spend time with them talking about the shared experience of being an ALO. The ALOs who are a part of this program and the 524 ALOs who serve our institutions, we thank you. You continue to be the heartbeat of what we do. You respond to our every survey and request. You consider our policies and procedures and give feedback, and you are the most important link in our connection with your institutions. The work we do together so that we keep this commission as strong as possible is critical. And you should remember that together we are building the strongest higher education community possible. As an ALO, you are part of that in even greater ways. As I turn the program back to Diana and Brian, I again thank them for being such an amazing mechanism of support for all of you, reflective of the rest of the staff, people who you should absolutely look toward for support and advice. It has been my privilege to be here with you. I thank you again, and I wish you all the very best in your role as an Accreditation Liaison Officer.
Great. Heather, thank you so much for those words. And actually, you have something in common with this, this webinar today, because this is for ALOs who are in the position 2 years or less. So Heather came full-time in July 1st as our president after serving a year as our president-elect. So we look forward to her continuing leadership. So we already kind of had this preview of this poll, but let's run it again, Vicki, for those who maybe came in a little bit late, so we can get a better understanding of some of the events our ALOs may have attended previously. There we go. Almost done. Looks like we have about 75%. So thank you for joining those other events. Again, it's important to keep an eye out for our emails, and we'll be talking about communications as we move along. This is some of the best way to do your job as an ALO and participate and learn about accreditation. So let's see, we're going to close some polls here and move on. There we go. All right, so let's begin. And because some of you have already attended some previous events, this may be a little repetitive, but there's nothing wrong with a good foundation and reinforcing that foundation. So let's start with a macro review of the commission. MSCHE is part of the triad, right? Which the other two legs of that triad are the Department of Education and your state accrediting agencies. And until July 1st, 2020, MSCHE was considered one of 7 regional accreditors as referenced on this map of the United States. showing the traditional regions of those accreditors. The recent change to federal regulations have placed regional accreditors into the category of institutional accreditors. So now you have former regional accreditors who are combined with former national accreditors to be the institutional accreditors, a lot of accreditors there, right? Plus you have the other category that you were probably also familiar with, the programmatic accreditors. Remembering that MSCHE accredits your institution as a whole. Before the changes in regulations, and thanks to members like yourselves, the Commission already had been operating in 48 states, exceptions being North Dakota and Montana, so we have a little bit to work on. 2 US territories, Puerto Rico and the US Virgin Islands, and the District of Columbia, and all told, 94 countries. So that's quite a presence, and when you look at the map from the perspective of, in this case, just additional locations and branch campuses, you can see how much of an impact MSCHE accreditation already has on a global footprint. So a few key data elements about the Commission. We're comprised of 524 members with an additional 6 hoping to become full members, our candidates. We serve over 2 million undergraduates with $20.81 billion with a B, dollars of Title IV funding flowing through to those students. Right now, like I said, we have 524 institutions, and if you look at the pie chart, we have 299 of which are private nonprofit, 203 are public, and the remaining 22 for-profits. Plus, we work with both private and public systems as represented by the bar graph here, starting with SUNY as one of our largest. So a little bit now about the Commission itself. This is a group of 29 elected members, and I can, just like Jonathan, these members are so dedicated to the work that we do as a Commission. They represent presidents, senior administrators, faculty, and public members. So how does the Commission work? Diana will discuss the actual accreditation cycle as part of her portion, but this chart kind of gets into that rhythm of the process. The Commission meets 3 times a year in March, June, and November, and it is at these meetings, the all-important reaffirmation of accreditation decisions are made. This process begins with peer evaluators. We will talk a little bit more about them. Their recommendation is shared with a Commission committee, who then shares a recommendation for consideration by the entire Commission. And again, we're going to talk about communications later, but I just want to note that this is a multi-level decision-making process. So when that team visit leaves and they do their exit interview and give you all thumbs up and good remarks and saying they're putting forward a recommendation, we just want to caution you that that is not the final recommendation. That doesn't take place until the Commission meeting. And I personally have sat through committee meetings where a team recommendation has been changed and put forward to the Commission. So before you pop the champagne after the team leaves, certainly pat yourselves on the back for a job well done, but wait until you hear from the Commission the final action before you talk more about that. So Heather and I have mentioned peer evaluators, and I know that some of you have that added distinction already. Peer evaluators are a vital part of the peer review process, serving as that first layer of review. Peer evaluators conduct on-site visits and/or review written reports in the case of MPPR. They review evidence submitted by institutions undergoing different types of accreditation reviews. They also participate in making accreditation and pre-accreditation candidacy decisions. Peer evaluators make careful judgments about an institution's compliance with accreditation standards as outlined in our standards for accreditation, requirements of affiliation, policies and procedures, and applicable federal regulatory requirements within the context of an institution's mission. So who are peer evaluators? Another dedicated group of individuals from across an institution They represent presidents to professors, from res life to librarians. So if you want to learn more, and I encourage you to do so, please visit our webpage. You see the URL on the screen, and know that actually we're coming up on November 1st, which is when the application to become a peer evaluator opens. So if you have any interest, that would be the time. So a little behind the scenes. The commission is comprised of 32 staff members who handle the day-to-day activities for the commission. Your most obvious connection to the commission is through your VP liaison, noted here as institutional field relations. But you may also have interactions with staff under information systems, AKA support at msche.org when you forget your portal password. Or with events when registering for an event and need acknowledgement of your registration. Or, and when we get back to site visits, submitting your expense forms to the finance department. So let's pull up another poll question here, and this one is stolen from SSI. So for those of you who have gone through SSI, you should be getting 100% on this quiz. Do you know who your VP liaison is? So Vicki? All right, so it looks like the majority of you do. And for those who don't or are not sure, we'll talk about the institutional directory page a little bit later, but that your VP liaison is listed on your institution page on our website. And if you haven't heard from them, maybe it's because you're brand new, but you probably will be hearing from them shortly. So for those of you who have not had the opportunity to meet in person your VP liaison, I just want to show this slide of our VP unit so you can put some faces to names and know that you should be communicating with your VP liaison at any time with any question you may have. So I think what I'm going to do now is I would like to introduce Dr. Christy Faison to say a few words about ALOs and VPs.
Thank you, Brian. So I too am delighted to welcome you to this afternoon's ALO workshop. This will be time well spent in us providing you the support and guidance so that you can provide support and guidance to your institutions. I'd like to talk to you for a few minutes about the relationship between the Accreditation Liaison Officer, ALO, that's you, and the MSCHE Vice President Liaison. Now, if you listened to both of those titles carefully, you heard the word liaison. As defined, a liaison is a person who facilitates a close working relationship between people or organizations. A person who acts as a link to assist communication or cooperation between groups of people. That is exactly what the relationship is between you, the ALO, and your Middle States Commission on Higher Education Vice President Liaison. Each supports the cooperation and communication between the institution and the commission. Now, I saw a poll that you all just took that said that almost 100% of you know the name of your MSCHE Vice President Liaison. So have you ever had to make a phone call to an organization or to a retail establishment and you get on the phone and it says, please listen carefully because your options may have changed? I want you to go back to that institutional directory and check just one more time for the name of your VP liaison, because over the summer, we made adjustments to the vice president's portfolios and their institutional assignments. So just double check, everyone, that's your homework assignment for immediately following this webinar. Go and check the institutional portal and confirm the name of your VP liaison. Your VP liaison is the go-to person here at the commission. And you are the go-to person at your institution for the VP liaison. You should be very comfortable reaching out to your vice president liaison anytime you have issues, concerns, questions. The VP liaison is not a peer evaluator. The VP liaison is not a commissioner. Their sole purpose is to support and guide you through all accreditation activities. So I encourage you to reach out to them anytime you feel the need. If you have questions about an accreditation process, a standard, a requirement, a communication that you receive from the commission, a request for a report or additional documentation, ask your vice president liaison. If you have questions about some great new initiative you're planning on your campus and you want to know whether or not you need approval before you implement it, ask your VP liaison. What if the VP liaison outreaches to you with a question? Answer your VP liaison, and as promptly as possible, because it generally is a time-sensitive nature. So for now, the VP liaison is working with you virtually, but there may be times that they need you to help connect with other individuals on the campus, the CFO, the CAO, or the president, and we ask you as the ALO to help make those connections. When we're able to meet again face-to-face, you already heard Dr. Perfetti say, please take the time to connect with your VP liaison, whether it's at a workshop, a conference, or a meeting, or during campus visits. But in the meantime, you can always reach out to us virtually through email, through Zoom, or through Teams. The relationship between the ALO and the MSCHE Vice President Liaison is special, and it is essential to forwarding the work of the commission and forwarding institutional improvement on your campuses. Thank you for all that you have done, for all that you are doing currently, and for all that you will do in the future to support your institution. You heard Dr. Perry say that your job is somewhat lonely, but important. But trust me, your role is vital to the success of your institution. So again, thank you and best wishes. Brian, back to you.
Christy, thank you so much. Perhaps the early going theme here for this presentation is communication, right? Please feel free to reach out to staff, especially your VP liaison, in the event that you have any questions whatsoever. So, there we go. Hopefully you can hear us. So before we get into your role as an ALO, I just want to talk about some rebranding that took place with the commission. So in 2019, the commission went through a rebranding exercise. If any of you have done that at your institution, then some of this will sound familiar. This was a self-reflection process that we undertook and had some engagement with our constituents to develop a brand positioning. So this is a statement that applies both internally and externally to help us provide consistency in how we talk about ourselves. So I'll read it very quickly. The Middle States Commission on Higher Education sets the standard for quality among its diverse member higher education institutions by defining objectives, equitable accreditation standards, analytical self-assessments, and objective peer reviews. MSCHE commissioners, staff, and evaluators measure, verify, and advance the quality of higher education institutions. So this statement there we go, is supported by 3 pillars. And it is no coincidence that our new logo is reflective of the 3 pillars that serve to guide the work of the Commission: protecting the future, guiding for good, and setting the standard. Here we have our brand identity, and it's really one that applies to you as well. You should look at yourselves as being MSCHE brand ambassadors. This is our DNA, and to be honest, this has taken on even more importance in the past few months, assuring trust and instilling confidence in higher education. And it is with this new branding and positioning, the focus of the Commission has moved forward with new strategic priorities. You may have seen the announcement about the Commission's membership initiative recently, and we'll talk more about that in a minute, but know that that initiative is one of 6 strategic priorities identified by the Commission. Among the others, data-driven decision-making. This remains an important aspect for us. We're looking at alternative resources that can be pursued to support our strategic priorities and advance the work of the Commission. We are becoming more innovative in our work, and we want to find ways to highlight your innovation as well. This is an important narrative shift as we convey to constituents the good work that is occurring across our membership. Finally, we are exploring ways to improve the work we do and modernize how we approach that work. So I mentioned the membership initiative. I hope you saw that announcement a few months ago, and we're excited about this aspect of our future. The launch of both domestic and international expansion was strategic and intentional and designed to bring benefits to the Commission. I do want to note that with the changes in regulation, accreditation is now viewed as a competitive market. So what that means is that we have to adjust how we think and how we act. Some numbers reflective of that interest. We had 64 total inquiries from November 2019 to today from institutions looking to join MSCHE. So while there may be some concern about a shrinking membership, especially with COVID-19 impacting an already fragile higher education environment, we continue to see interest in accreditation with our Commission, both domestically and internationally, from within our traditional region and beyond. So we can see an exciting future ahead for the Commission and its members, for which you play a vital role. Now, please join me in welcoming Diana Bonner, who will talk more about your role as an ALO.
Thank you, Brian. So in just a moment, oops, where are we going here?
Got it.
I'm not sure which way we're going.
I'll back it up for you.
There we go. Okay.
Yep.
In just a moment, we're going to hear from yet another of your colleagues who has been gracious enough to provide some remarks for you.
Hello, I am Dr. Linda Hope Murray Jackson. I am the Assistant Vice President for Institutional Effectiveness and the Middle States ALO at Delaware State University. Go Hornets! I've been in this role for just over 2 years, but I've been in higher education for the past 25 as both faculty and administration, the dark side. Before that, I was a CPA in corporate America. So I've been asked to share some useful advice with the new ALOs. My first and most important piece of advice: run. Leave now. Just joking. It's actually a very nice position, especially if you have a supportive boss and you're pleasant, curious, detailed, and forceful. Humor does help a lot too. Make sure you really understand your institution's mission and goals, and also take some time to have a working knowledge of the Middle State policies and procedures. You don't have to have them memorized, but you do need to understand what's covered in them so that when situations arise, you can guide your institution through those situations. You will not always be in the proverbial room when it happens. So you have to have some curiosity. You need to pay attention to what's going on around you at your institution so you know when to interject the forcefulness yourself into a situation to address potential middle state issues early in the process. Your VP liaison, your new best friend. They are there to guide you on issues and they keep your information confidential. We're on our second VP liaison. It's a long story. It's a beautiful story, but trust me, they're very helpful. They were both very helpful. The staff at Middle States is also a wealth of information and support. I urge you to attend the town halls, the ALO meetings, the annual meetings, any trainings that you can attend whenever possible, and get to know the ALOs at a variety of schools. A lot of the information is transferable from school to school. They are great to share ideas with, and they're a wonderful support system. Keep your boss and the rest of your university apprised of what Middle States is and why it is important to your institution. Make sure they understand the whole accreditation issue. The more people understand, the more they share information. Make sure you only give executive summaries, though. It's your job to know the details, not theirs. Bottom line, make sure you understand how Middle States works and the culture at your institution so you can be of service to guide the process so everyone wins. Here at Delaware State University, we say it all matters. And when dealing with Middle States requirements, that statement holds true. Middle States takes a holistic look at the entire institution, and so should you. Good luck and Godspeed, and welcome to the ALO Club. Take care and have a great rest of your day.
We want to thank Dr. Mary Jackson for her inspirational remarks. And now let's begin at the beginning of the relationship between Middle States and your institution. The Mid-Atlantic Region Commission on Higher Education, that's our formal name, or MARCHE, but we do business, as you well know, as the Middle States Commission on Higher Education. Our bylaws state that all institutions that are accredited by MSCHE and institutions that have been granted candidate for accreditation status by MSCHE shall be institutional members of MSCHE. As such, they are subject to membership responsibilities and privileges shown on this slide. Each of these are important. However, the appointment of an Accreditation Liaison Officer is essential to both the Commission and the member institution. You will hear throughout this presentation that you should familiarize yourself with the standards for accreditation and requirements of affiliation. These 7 standards and the 15 requirements of affiliation on the next slide will serve as an ongoing guide for MSCHE member institutions. Institutions are expected to demonstrate and maintain compliance with the standards for accreditation, requirements of affiliation, commission policies and procedures, and applicable federal regulatory requirements. You're going to hear that phrase a lot this afternoon. To be eligible for and to achieve and to maintain MSCHE accreditation, an institution must demonstrate that it fully meets the requirements of affiliation. These are the foundational expectations for all Middle States member institutions. Member institutions are also expected to maintain compliance with applicable federal regulatory requirements and commission policies and procedures. We'll come back to those in just a moment. Requirement of Affiliation 5 states that the institution complies with all applicable government, usually federal and state laws and regulations. These pertain primarily to regulations put forth by the Department of Education. For example, FERPA, the Clery Act, Title IV, Title IX, etc., as well as any applicable state regulations. In addition, there are 8 areas of institutional compliance with accreditation relevant federal regulation. These are shown here on the slide. They are reviewed in conjunction with Standard 2, Criterion 8. Member institutions are also expected to maintain compliance with Commission policies and procedures. The most current policies, procedures, and guidelines are posted on the MSCHE website. Always visit the website for the most up-to-date versions. These documents are organized by alphabetical order, and there is a search filter so that you can easily search by the title. There are 2 subpages within this page. Policies, procedures, and guidelines that are in effect are posted on the Browse Policies and Procedures page. Policies that are under any sort of review or have recently been reviewed and approved but are not yet in effect are posted on the Policies Under Review page. Member institutions may also provide comment on accreditation policies, procedures, and guidelines. Commission will post those that have an open call for comments here. And you and your president and anyone else may comment on those accreditation-related policies and procedures. There are currently 60 or so policies, procedures, and guidelines listed in the directory. However, this list represents a sampling of those most pertinent to your work as the ALO. You should make it a regular practice to visit the MSCHE website often, read your email notifications, review the newsletter announcing changes and revisions, and as Dr. Murray Jackson suggested, have a working knowledge of the policies and procedures so that you know what you may need to do when an accreditation situation arises on your campus. President Perry reminded us that the Accreditation Liaison Officer role and responsibilities guidelines is the foundational document upon which your new role rests. You were asked to review it as part of your preparation for this webinar, and I hope you did. If ever you or your colleagues are in doubt about the critical nature of your position, a review of this document will confirm the expectations for you. My advice to you is to read it, learn it, live it, love it. Section 2 of the Commission's Communication in the Accreditation Process Procedures, which Brian will focus on a little bit later in the program, states the institution's CEO or president will appoint an Accreditation Liaison Officer to serve as the primary point of contact with Commission staff and as a resource to the institution on accreditation issues. The Commission expects the institution to abide by the Accreditation Liaison Officer role and responsibilities. The individual appointed should meet the following criteria. They should serve as the primary contact with MSCHE staff. They should also serve as a resource to the institution on accreditation matters. This needs to be someone with time, knowledge, and authority to be able to engage with the president and others on campus on accreditation matters. And of course, someone other than the president and also not serving in a consultant role. In other words, our expectation is that you've been given the authority and will engage with the commission on behalf of your institution through the appropriate means, and that you will be able to engage with your president and senior leadership at your institution on a regular basis regarding the institution's accreditation matters. We're going to conduct a poll here so that we can get a sense of where your institution sits within the accreditation cycle, and to make sure that you know where your institution sits. What is the next event for your institution in the accreditation cycle? Are you in self-study? Are you experiencing the midpoint peer review? Do you have no idea? I would think that's an appropriate answer, that we're about 50-50 split. So half of you are doing self-study or somewhere in the self-study process, and about half of you are undergoing a midpoint peer review or coming upon a midpoint peer review. I'm glad to see that no one is unsure. Here is a graphic representation of the Commission's accreditation cycle. It consists of two fundamental components that are scheduled over an 8-year period: the self-study evaluation and the midpoint peer review. As you may know, the first and the most well-known of these components is the comprehensive self-study evaluation report and evaluation visit, bracketed here in the graphic. The second is the midpoint peer review, or MPPR. That is a peer review of accumulated financial data, student achievement data, and responses to commission recommendations, if requested, submitted by institutions through a series of annual institutional updates, or the AIU. Other monitoring activities include follow-up reports and visits, supplemental information reports, and a few other items that show up periodically within the cycle. The self-study evaluation and visit takes place over the course of a 2 to 2.5 year period of time, during which the institution engages in self-reflection and inquiry. The primary purpose, as is the purpose of all accreditation processes, is for the institution to be able to demonstrate compliance with the Commission's standards, requirements of affiliation, policies and procedures, and applicable federal regulations within the context of its own mission, goals, and institutional priority. The midpoint peer review is a review of 5 years of accumulated aggregate data submitted by institutions through the annual institutional update. It is conducted midway through the accreditation review cycle, generally in the fall of the 4th year following the self-study evaluation. The purpose of the review is to conduct an analysis of key data indicators for, again, student achievement, viability and capacity, and financial health, to confirm if there are any concerns related to the institution's ability to continue to meet the Commission's expectations as described before. The MPPR may also include a review of the institution's responses to Commission recommendations which were submitted in conjunction with each AIU as applicable, to confirm that the institution is making sufficient progress in those areas. The Commission requires institutions to report key data indicators on an annual basis in the Annual Institutional Update, or AIU. These include, but are not limited to, enrollment, financial information, and measures of student achievement. Every year, institutions will enter or verify institutional data and upload required documentation. For institutions that submit data to the Integrated Post-Secondary Education Data System, commonly known as IPEDS, the data will be pre-populated for you and available for review and verification for accuracy. Institutions that do not submit IPEDS data will have to submit other relevant data. Detailed information, including the data dictionary, the FAQ, is available on the MSCHE website. And now let's do another pulse check. Which best describes your level of involvement in the 2020 AIU? A, I was intimately involved in the submission. B, very little and I clicked submit at the end. Or C, I had no involvement at all. Please launch the poll. It looks like a great number of you were intimately involved in the submission. That's both a good thing and maybe a troubling thing, but we'll get to that in just a few moments. Here is an overview of the AIU process. The report is downloadable, which allows for distribution among responsible parties at the institution for review, verification, and response if appropriate. So who completes the AIU? While you are the primary person responsible for the completion of the AIU, it should be completed by a group of individuals and interested parties at your institution. This process happens for every institution every year, usually in April or May. You should plan for it by identifying the key individuals who need to be involved, building a timeline or project schedule with checkpoints and deadlines, and leaving sufficient time for approval before the submission deadline. 5 years of aggregated trend data are generated for use in other review processes during your institution's next accreditation activity. So who sees the AIU data? The MSCHE staff will monitor the AIU data. Reports from the AIU and other data sources will be shared with commissioners and evaluators. And aggregate data reports from the AIU are incorporated into future reviews. The commission may request a report if the data indicators suggest serious concerns. In other words, no news is probably good news. There is another part of the AIU process that may or may not currently apply to your institution. Recommendation responses fall into the broad category of follow-up, but they can also be viewed as a form of monitoring. In some cases, the commission will require specific response to recommendations. They can originate from the self-study evaluation, the MPPR, or any other follow-up. They are limited in narrative form, limited to 1,000 words or 6,000 characters in a text box. They are iterative and cumulative, demonstrating progress toward sufficiently addressing the recommendation before the next accreditation activity. There are 4 types of follow-up reports requested by the commission: focused reports, monitoring reports, supplemental information reports, and show cause reports. If you receive a request for follow-up, I strongly encourage you to outreach to your Vice President Liaison as soon as possible to clarify the request and make sure that you understand the Commission's expectations for response. A focus report is requested when a serious concern about compliance comes from your midpoint peer review. Focus report is always accompanied by a focus team visit. The purpose of the visit is to verify the information provided in the focus report, and the visit is conducted by peer evaluators. A monitoring report is requested under two circumstances: when an institution is found to be out of compliance with the Commission's standards, requirements of affiliation, policies and procedures, or applicable federal regulatory requirements, and is placed on warning or probation. A monitoring report is also requested to ensure that once the institution has returned to compliance, it can sustain its return to compliance. Show cause reports are requested when an institution is on warning or probation and has not returned to compliance and is placed on show cause. Institution representatives are invited to appear before the Commission to present their case. And this process is detailed in Commission policy and procedures. You will be able to access the Commission's request in the secure MSCHE portal. This request will also be publicly available on the website. Once you understand the request, be prepared to discuss this request and the response with the appropriate leadership at your institution. While it may very well be that others at your institution are responsible for compiling the report, you should be certain that you know the plan, because you will be required to upload the response in a timely fashion to the MSCHE portal. Follow-up visits are another situation where consultation with your Vice President Liaison is critical. When a follow-up team visit is directed by the Commission, the visit is scheduled by Commission staff. Make certain that you know who at your institution are the responsible parties for arranging that visit. It might be you, and you may need to involve others in the coordination of the visit. Out-of-cycle monitoring of member institutions takes place all the time. Typically, it refers to conditions, actions, or activities at a member institution that may lead to questions about the institution's compliance. The means by which the Commission seeks additional information is through the request of a supplemental information report, or SIR. The request for an SIR could result from the Commission's actions following the submission of a self-study report, follow-up report, or substantive change request. In this case, it would also be part of the public action. The request could also be made in the form of a formal letter addressed to your president and copied to you, detailing a concern or issue that should be addressed. Public concern could also generate a supplemental information report. These could also include complaints, third-party comment, media reports, or external investigations. An out-of-cycle supplemental information report describes the Commission's concerns, identifies relevant standards, requirements of affiliation, policies and procedures, and federal compliance requirements. The response should explain the situation, address the Commission's concern, and ensure continued compliance through evidence of the corrective measures, and the response is due on a relatively short timeline. This is because the assumption is that the institution always maintains compliance with Commission expectations, and therefore should be able to easily provide evidence demonstrating that in fact they are in compliance. The scope of an institution's accreditation is established at the time of its initial grant of accreditation and reaffirmed at each self-study evaluation. However, we know that institutions are constantly changing based on a variety of factors, both internal and external. The Department of Education designates certain types of changes as substantive and require separate review by the Commission prior to their implementation. Here's a good time for another poll. I want to gauge your familiarity or comfort level with the substantive change process. So please rate your comfort level. Is it high, a 4 or 5? Or B, is it moderate, 2 to 3? Or C, is it very little? Please launch the poll. Well, it looks like you all have some experience, a little bit of experience with substantive change. We also know that the substantive change requirements and the process and procedures have changed. So there are some resources that we're going to provide for you today. Thank you. Substantive change policies and procedures are reviewed regularly, and frequent revisions are necessary because of the continuous changes in the higher education environment and supplemental guidance that we receive from the Department of Education. For substantive change, the fundamental policy statement is that an institution must submit a request for certain types of changes, and that requests must be reviewed and acted upon by the Commission prior to implementation. The Commission has developed procedures, guidelines, and template documents for substantive change and for complex substantive change to describe the steps in the approval process, the different types of substantive change, and to assist you in providing the required information for appropriate review. The procedures and guidelines are available on the policies directory on our website. As a result of the new regulations released by the Department of Education on November 1st, 2019, the Commission made major revisions to the substantive change policy and procedures, streamlined the submission of the process, and updated the guidelines and templates. Template forms and a great deal of additional information can be found on the revised Substantive Change Resources webpage. I hope you've bookmarked this webpage and that you will outreach to Commission staff, your Vice President Liaison, or myself with questions about substantive change. We are available to provide information and respond to specific questions about substantive change requirements. An important way in which communication occurs between the Commission and your institution is through the MSCHE Institution Portal. We hope that you followed our request to watch the Institution Portal training videos. Institutions are required to maintain accurate information in the portal, and you, as the main key contact, are essential in that process. I encourage you to log into the portal regularly to review and update information that is housed there. The institution portal is arranged in a tabular format. The institution profile tab is where critical directory information about your institution is housed. Some changes to the information here can be made by you, and some may require a simple communication to the commission staff. Some edits will trigger submission of a substantive change request. When in doubt, you are welcome to send an email to me, and I will be happy to help you navigate whether this is a substantive change or is some other process that must be followed. There are 5 key contacts who have access to the secure institution portal. These are your CEO or institution's president, the CAO or Chief Academic Officer, the CFO or Chief Financial Officer, you as the Accreditation Liaison Officer, and a portal delegate who may hold any role at the institution, and that person's access may be changed as needed. This role is sometimes designated to someone in institutional research, particularly during the AIU collection period, or someone else at the institution as needed. As the ALO, we rely on you to keep these contacts current. The location tab is another area that is critical to keep updated and current. You may revise other instructional sites without submitting a substantive change request. Other changes to locations may require substantive change requests. Completion of the screening form will help in determining whether you will need to submit a substantive change request or not. Again, when in doubt, outreach to me, to the Substantive Change Commission staff, or to your Vice President Liaison. The annual update tab is where you will download and submit your AIU during the collection period. Previously submitted AIU information is also available here. The Reviews tab is where you will upload required information, evidence, and requested follow-up reports. You will also be able to download commission actions from this area of the portal. Before turning the program back over to Brian, I would like us to hear from another of your experienced colleagues, Mr. Javier Zavala from the University of Puerto Rico, Bayamón campus.
Hi, I'm Javier Zavala, Middle State Liaison Officer for the University of Puerto Rico at Bayamón. I have been a liaison for the past 16 years. I am part of a multi-campus university system that has an enrollment of more than 50,000 students in a wide range of academic programs, from certificate to doctoral degrees. In all these years, I have the opportunity to work from self-studies to all kinds of reports required by Middle States. Serving as a liaison is definitely a full-time job. But most importantly, as liaison, we are the key piece gathering all the information and analysis toward the accreditation goal. It is also important that we are more than facilitators. We are the accreditation gurus. That means you have to be always a step ahead of the team to ensure everything is aligned and in full compliance with all accreditation standards, regulations, and procedures. So, I have 5 recommendations for you today. My first recommendation is to make sure that you and your counselor or president read and understand the role and responsibilities of liaison officers. Second, Visit Middle States website. Get into the tutorials. It will help you a lot to understand and get organized. Third, read and get familiar with all accreditation standards, regulations, and procedures to improve effectiveness. Learn as much as possible everything about the accreditation cycles. This means self-study process, midpoint peer review process, follow-up reports, monitoring reports, show cause report and processes, and the annual institutional update. Fourth, networking is key. Share and keep in touch with other liaisons. It will open your scope and understanding of all processes. Build a strong collegiate relationship with your Middle State Vice President liaison. It will help you to clarify doubts and build a bridge of transparency between your institution and an accreditation agency. Do not forget that you also need to build a strong relation among the key players of your campus. You are responsible not only to the accreditation requirements, but to ensure all constituents in the academic community understand and work towards the accreditation goal. Making informed decisions will only be possible through the assessment and processes analysis. Fifth, communication. Make sure your academic community knows about the accreditation process and the importance of each stage. Use every means available to you in your university. Have a section on the university webpage, send emails, create e-brochures, ask for regular space in the agenda of academic and administrative deans as well as department chairs. But do not forget students. Meet with student council and organizations. At the end, communication will ensure not only transparency, but commitment and responsibility. Well, I hope this helped. Welcome to the Middle State Accreditation Experience.
Great. So thank you, Diana, and thank you, Javier, for those good words of advice. I would like to use our final segment to talk about, as Javier noted, communications. So some overview about the role and process of communications at the Commission. So just like you at your institutions, we have a PR department, that would be moi. I handle media inquiries, monitor the headlines, produce front-facing news such as web stories and the quarterly newsletters, assist with membership communications such as the ones you receive from our accreditation relations folks. And then of course I support events through promotion and marketing. So an important note, right? Please do not unsubscribe from our emails. That means you won't be getting them. And as part of your role as ALO, you are responsible for receiving those emails from the Commission. And if you unsubscribe, you're going to risk missing important information. And then there is social media. So here's the shameless plug for following us on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube using @MSCHE.org. If you are already following us, thank you. I know your institutions have been doing this for some time, and I certainly handled these duties when I was at Sciences. And to be honest, I was a little surprised when I got to the Commission and they didn't have these channels in place. So I got a little bit of a break from social media, but now we're right back in it. When we talk about communications as it applies to institutions, you are governed by our standards for accreditation and requirements of affiliation, specifically Standard 2, Ethics and Integrity for Honesty and Truthfulness in Communications, and Requirement of Affiliation 14, which also talks about disclosure of information. expectation and communications are further spelled out in two other policy and procedure areas: public disclosure and communications in the accreditation process. And these are, of course, the most visible aspects as far as institutions are concerned. You're required to have a general statement about your MSCHE membership displayed. The public disclosure procedure spells that out. So in addition, this document outlines a number of other areas such as student achievement data, cost of attendance, et cetera, that must also be publicly disclosed. So please make sure your institution is in compliance. I talked earlier about our logo, and one of the things we did after launching the new branding was to adjust the logo usage guidelines. We want and encourage you to use the logo. Here are two examples of institutions who have added it to their pages, along with the general statement about their accreditation status. While the logo is optional, accurate representation of accreditation status is mandatory. Don't do it now, but go ahead and check your page as soon as we conclude to make sure it's accurate. And you can find the statement again in that public disclosure policy and procedures. The communication in the accreditation process, policy and procedures describes the Commission's commitment to transparent communication. It includes procedures for sharing information with each of the Commission's constituencies, how the Commission communicates with institutions through the CEO, other key contacts, and of course you, the ALO, how the Commission shares information about itself, how the Commission shares information about member institutions, how the Commission meets its obligations to provide notification of accreditation actions, how the Commission communicates with government, other quality assurance agencies and related entities, and most importantly, confidentiality. So the best rule of thumb, communications between the institution and the Commission are confidential. So when you pick up that phone to ask a question of your VP liaison, it is confidential. The other important point is that the accreditation materials belong to you. It's up to you to share those or publish those materials. We will not. Of course, there are some exceptions, such as a subpoena or court order, or if we need to correct misleading information. Again, we treat our communications with you as confidential. I can't stress that enough. Let me give you an example. Let's say your institution is considering a merger, or maybe even just opening another location, certainly sensitive topics. You should contact your VP liaison early in that process to make sure that you are accounting for all the issues that could arise that may impact your accreditation. Again, it's confidential. So that said, I'd like to talk briefly about how the Commission communicates with our members and the public, including the media. The most visible way we share information is through the website, msche.org. I hope you're familiar with your institution's page in the institutional directory. Each institution shows some basic 411 information from the address to the last 10 years of Commission actions. Related to that public information, we may publish news stories or press releases. And then in addition to those needing a more formal presentation of an institution's accreditation, they can click on that print SAS button in the upper right. We get calls all the time from students needing an official statement of an institution's accreditation. The print SAS does that. And then if there's actually additional need for a more letterhead related format, please reach out to Diana at dbonner, D-B-O-N-N-E-R at msche.org, and she'll be happy to provide that. So a little side note here, right? I believe we have someone from Adelphi with us today. Congratulations, your institution is #1 in terms of our page account because we're always using yours as an example. So here, case in point. All right, so let's review what happens after a Commission meeting when actions are released. Technically, by federal regulations, the Commission has 30 days to make the announcement about its accreditation actions. Institutions will receive an email when the Commission action is posted to the portal. It's then up to you to look at your portal page to actually access that action and see what it says. That email will go to the CEO and the ALO. but really anybody at the institution with portal access will be able to see it. So in addition to the institutions, actions are also sent to the U.S. Department of Education, appropriate state and licensing agencies, as well as other accreditors. And finally, to the website for public consumption. One other thing to note here is that as an institution, you have an opportunity to provide an institutional statement regarding the action. And you have within 60 days to do that. And that statement will be displayed on the website. Okay, non-compliance actions, right? Warning, probation, show cause. Those are handled a little bit differently. They're still governed by the 30-day notice. The difference is what we do it from the commission standpoint is we'll send a FedEx to the CEO with a printed notification of that non-compliance. After we get word the FedEx has been delivered, it is also sent to the school via email. Receipt of the non-compliance notification then triggers simultaneous notifications to the Department of Ed, state licensing bodies, et cetera. Now, in terms of the public, the commission has within 24 hours to post that information. Not 24 hours later, within 24 hours. And to be honest, we treat that timing the same as other notifications, simultaneous. And here too, the institution has the opportunity for non-compliance actions to provide an institutional statement to be posted to the website about the action. I believe in recent memory, only 2 institutions have felt the need to provide that statement, but the opportunity is there. So I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. We don't wait 30 days. We generally issue the notices for all actions within a week of the commission meeting, and many times much sooner than that. Since I've been at the commission in the last 2+ years, I can think of a time that we actually never went beyond a week. And that has a lot to do with our understanding that you're anxious to hear what the commission's decided. A few more things to note. The commission meetings are not open to the public. Deliberations are not released. The only information coming from a commission meeting is about the action and the details of the action. So when I get a call, I will only talk to the media or the public about the process or about the action itself from the publicly available information and what that means for an institution. I will not discuss what took place at the commission meeting. So we know that we've gone over a lot, right? So have no fear. All of these links to the relevant policy and procedures will be sent to you along with this slide deck. Here's another tip, and those in SSI may already be familiar with this. I do want to point out that the SSI communications plan, whether you're an SSI or not, has some great templates and suggestions for communicating with your community, and that can be found in Module 3, and you see the link here at the bottom of these resources. So before we move on to questions and answers, and again, if you haven't done so, please submit them in the chat. You'll see submit Q&A here under my name. I'll be monitoring that. We now have some final words from ALO Brian Fernandez from Dominican College, who has some closing remarks.
Hi, I'm Brian Fernandez. I have been Vice President for Enrollment Management at Dominican College for 22 years, and I have been the ALO for about 14 years. Since you are participating in this webinar, you are new to this role. You should know that you are the chosen ones and the blessed ones. It is important that you remain current with your knowledge of accreditation matters, and Middle States provides you with the opportunities to do just that. First, if you are not already, familiarize yourself with the standards for accreditation and the requirements of affiliation. Second, look for the newsletters and emails that will arrive in your mailbox. They probably already are. Read them carefully and determine what items apply to your institution. Third, attend the town hall meetings organized by the Commission where updates are provided and there is an opportunity to ask questions and seek clarifications. Fourth, attend the annual conference. You will be able to attend several informative sessions, meet with peers, and most important, attend the ALO breakfast where you will meet with your peers and get new information from the commission. By the way, the breakfast is great as well. Unfortunately, this event will not take place in December, as is usually the case, but do keep this event in mind. Your single biggest resource for information and support is your Middle States VP liaison. So get to know your VP. My custom has been to stay in touch with the VP by email and by making it a point to meet at the annual conference, even if it is for just a minute. This is the individual who will be able to guide you on any accreditation matters that may arise, and most certainly during the self-study process. In normal times, the VPs spend a lot of time on the road, so the best way of contacting them is via email. There have been times when I have needed to have a conversation with the VP, and that has always been possible. Most of the communications that you receive from Middle States also go to your president. I have made it a practice to review the communication and then speak with the president if it is relevant to the college. The other practice that has been effective is staying on top of recommendations that emerge from the self-study report, as well as from the visiting team. Periodically, I remind the president of them and have them on the agenda for the president's cabinet meetings. Incidentally, this could also require reminding other areas of the college of the recommendations. So let me end by reminding you that your VP liaison is your best resource. Good luck in your new role. Stay safe and healthy. Thank you very much.
Great. So from one Brian to another, thank you so much, Brian, for those words. So Diana, we did get a few questions, some in advance, some during the presentation. I'll throw one or two your way. Is there a group that exists to support new ALOs that is currently around or will continue after the meeting?
So at the current time, there is not a group, but you are welcome to start one. We encourage you to outreach to each other. You can review the institution directory to find institutions that are similar to your own. You can, I believe the list of folks who are attending this webinar might be made available.
Well, we didn't talk about that, but we can, sure.
If that's something that may be also possible. And certainly you can outreach to your vice president liaison, and they might have a suggestion for one or two ALOs that, again, are at similar institutions that you might outreach to.
Great. So we got one question that came in. It asked about using the generic term for campus on a web page or brochure when it's technically a location, some of that. So from a marketing standpoint, you can call it what you'd like. From our standpoint, as long as it's classified correctly on our end in our system, that's what's important. But again, these are good questions for your VP liaison. Diane, another one that came in, is there a list of reports the institutions must submit each year in addition to the AIU?
So the only other submissions that are required are those that come from a commission's action. So those kinds of requests. Other than that, the only other information that we require on an annual basis is through the annual institution update or AIU.
Great. one question that came in just before the meeting. Someone was looking for, hey, is there a list of peer evaluators at my institution? And yes, so if you were to go to our website and we have a peer evaluator drop down, go to that, you'll see evaluators who have served. If you pull up that page, you can then sort by putting in the name of the institution, and you'll get a list of all those in the last 3 years who have served as peer evaluators. Diana, can you tell me what's happening in spring 2021 with virtual site visits? What are we advocating for as a commission, and how does that work?
So right now, we are following the guidelines that have been presented by the Department of Education. So the virtual site visit permission only extends through December of 2020. The department has not yet approved of virtual site visits beyond that. We are, however, advocating that it be extended, and if it is extended, then we will follow those guidelines as well.
Great. And we had one more that came in through the chat, and it had to do with MPPR training. They thought they saw that was supposed to have started in July 2020. I know that those institutions who are in this MPPR cohort have been contacted with regard to that. Again, if you have any questions, I think that reaching out to your VP liaison is the best route to go here. So, and I think that's all we have. So I know I want to thank Diana and all those who contributed to today. Thank you for joining us. We're going to give you a few minutes of your time back here. And of course, so let me say this before we wrap up. We just launched a new Contact Us page on our website. So what we've done is instead of having just one email to send it to, we have a big list of emails that you can direct questions to and what those individuals are responsible for. So the new Contact Us page on the website is another way to reach out if maybe you don't feel your VP liaison is the appropriate person. You can find the appropriate unit here at the commission. And if it gets to the wrong person, we will redirect it to the right person. Again, we're a small but mighty group here at the commission. So Diana, final words?
Yes, I do want to update you with information that I've just learned, which is that while we will not share email addresses for the participants at this afternoon session, we will be able to share names, and you can look at our directory to find, or at the institution's website to find those email addresses for other ALOs that you can contact. And with that, I want to thank Brian. I want to thank again Victoria, who is behind the scenes supporting us mightily, and I want to thank you for your. Hi, Vicki. I want to thank you all for your patience while we work through some of our technical challenges, but also for your attention. I know we threw a lot at you today, and you're going to go away from this maybe with more questions than answers. But I hope if you've taken one thing away, it's that you can outreach to us at any point, at any time, any one of us, and we will make sure that you get a response either from us directly, from your vice president liaison directly, or from some other staff member who perhaps can answer your question in a more full way, more informative way. But I do want to, again, extend my thanks to you and hope that I hear from you often. Take good care, stay safe. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you. Take care.